Have you ever caught yourself just staring up at the ceiling late at night, wondering what actually happens when you finally kick the bucket? It's the ultimate existential question, isn't it? I mean, we spend our entire lives trying to avoid it, yet it's literally the one single experience every human being will eventually share. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to break down exactly what happens when the lights go out, using the hard facts, the biology, and the philosophies that try to make sense of the whole shebang.
So, today we are exploring the biological and spiritual transition of death. We'll be taking a journey from the profound spiritual hopes that comfort us, straight into the gritty, messy biological reality of a body shutting down, and then all the way back out into the cosmos. It's a wild ride, so get comfortable.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, believing in the beyond. Second, the final whistle. Third, the timeline of decay. And finally, the soul's next chapter. Let's jump in.
Section 1. Believing in the beyond. What we think happens. Let's start by looking at what people actually expect will happen when our earthly time is up.
You know, despite our highly modern science-grounded views on death, a strong majority of people still believe it's not just an absolute end. Take a look at this 2014 UK Telegraph poll. Just under 60% of respondents said they believe some part of us lives on. Think about that. We live in an age of empirical science, yet that deep human intuition that a piece of our consciousness survives the grave, it remains incredibly persistent.
And that sentiment? It's totally echoed across the Atlantic. A 2015 Pew Research survey dug into what Americans believe awaits them, and wow, a massive 72% believe in heaven. The survey described it as a place where people who have led good lives are eternally rewarded. On the flip side, though, 54% believe in hell, a place where people who've led bad lives and die without being sorry are eternally punished. So for a huge chunk of us, the expectation is either being ensconced in some cloud-strewn paradise or facing eternal hellfire and a guy with a pitchfork.
Moving right along to Section 2, the final whistle, the mechanics of dying. Let's see how our spiritual dreams contrast with the very physical, frankly blunt reality of a human body shutting down.
Okay, so the absolute crucial point here is distinguishing between the two main stages of dying. You have clinical death and biological death. Clinical, or cardiac death, happens when your heart stops beating and blood no longer flows. Now, the amazing thing here is that people brought back from this state often report being aware of their surroundings or even walking toward a light, a classic near-death experience. You basically have this grace period of about 4 to 6 minutes where you can potentially be brought back. But biological death? That is brain death. Zero electrical activity in the brain. That's the final whistle. Once you cross that line, it's game over. Totally irreversible.
And once biological death happens, well, things get incredibly undignified. But hey, you're dead. What do you care, right? Your muscles completely relax, which means your sphincter relaxes too. So that triple whopper you had for lunch, yeah, it's gonna spill out, along with the contents of your bladder. Trapped gas leaks out, causing quite a stink. Air escaping from the mouth can even cause dead bodies to emit very alive-sounding moans and groans. Nurses actually report hearing this all the time. And speaking directly from a male biological perspective for a second, guys, as those muscles contract and blood pools, you might actually get an erection or even ejaculate after passing away. Like I said, it is a deeply messy, intensely physical affair.
Now, this next one is intense. For women who pass away while pregnant, there's an exceedingly rare, pretty macabre phenomenon called coffin birth. Because the body is breaking down, gases build up in the abdomen. So instead of the mother pushing, it's actually these trapped bodily gases that squeeze the newborn out into the world after the mother has died. It doesn't happen often, but it is a stark, crazy reminder of the sheer mechanical pressures that build up inside a deceased body.
Right after you go, your blood obviously stops flowing. Because the heart isn't pumping, gravity just completely takes over. All your blood will pool to the lowest areas of your body, depending on how you're positioned. This process is scientifically called livor mortis. If you've ever watched a true crime show on TV and noticed that dark, bruised purple color on a victim's skin, yep, that's livor mortis in action.
At the exact same time, without that warm blood circulating, your internal heater is permanently shut off. The body begins to cool down in a process known as algor mortis, or as it's often called, the death chill. But it doesn't just get cold, it continues cooling continuously until it perfectly matches the exact temperature of the room or the environment it's resting in.
Section 3, the timeline of decay, dust to dust. Now that we understand the messy, immediate aftermath, let's explore the precise timeline of decomposition.
Just how long does it take for us to actually return to the Earth?
This timeline maps out our physical return to the dirt, and honestly, it's a fascinating progression. Within just 2 to 6 hours, calcium floods into your muscle cells, making you completely stiff. That's rigor mortis. Without blood flow, your cells break down, bacteria grows, and the decomposition kicks off. If a body is left above ground, it basically becomes a liquefied mess, feasted on by insects and animals in about a month. If you're buried underground, it typically takes 8 to 12 years to be reduced to just a skeleton. And after about 50 years, even your strong bones will dissolve and become part of the earth. Sure, modern embalming slows this down, but eventually, nature absolutely always wins.
A fascinating myth we really need to bust right here is the idea that your hair and nails continue to grow after you die. They absolutely do not. What's actually happening is that as your cells break down, your skin is receding and shrinking back, so this loosening and shrinking of the skin just creates a bizarre optical illusion that the hair and nails are getting longer.
As we move into the putrefaction stage, which is where bacteria and microorganisms start actively feasting on your soft tissues, the smell becomes genuinely unimaginable. To give you a visceral sense of this, one internet commenter on Reddit described the smell of a decomposing body like this: rotten eggs, feces, and a used toilet left out for a month multiplied by 1,000. It is unholy. And honestly, that hit the nail on the head. That is the harsh biological reality of our physical vessels breaking down.
Section 4. The Soul's Next Chapter. Philosophical Perspectives. With the grim reality of biology out of the way, let's cleanse our palate. Let's ascend away from the physical and look at what great thinkers, philosophers, and everyday people believe happens to the mind and the soul.
We talked earlier about those beautiful near-death experiences, with the warm light at the end of the tunnel. But that isn't everyone's experience. Another Reddit user who experienced clinical death shared a wildly different perspective, writing, "It was just black emptiness. No thoughts, no consciousness, nothing. Just a stark, silent void. And this terrifying yet oddly peaceful nothingness is exactly what has fueled centuries of intense debate about whether the soul actually exists independent of the brain."
That stark contrast is exactly why we see such a diverse, incredible landscape of human philosophy trying to answer that exact question. The French philosopher René Descartes, he argued that the soul and the body are entirely separate, suggesting something lingers on. Then you have Friedrich Nietzsche, who proposed a mind-bending concept called eternal recurrence, the idea that all energy in the universe repeats ad infinitum, meaning you live this exact same life, over and over, forever. Heavy, right? And then there's the Buddhist belief in the wheel of samsara, a cycle of reincarnation where souls begin a new, different life after death, constantly striving for true enlightenment to break the vicious cycle and finally achieve nirvana.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, profound question to ponder about our own cosmic significance. When our heart finally stops and the biology shuts down completely, do we tip our caps to St. Peter at the pearly gates, hoping to enter a gorgeous paradise? Or do we simply seed the earth, our souls nothing more than a comforting fantasy we invented to distract us from our own cosmic insignificance here on solid ground? We can't tell you for sure, but I highly encourage you to look at the evidence, consider the philosophies, and decide for yourself what makes this life worth living. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and hey, keep questioning everything.